There is an extraordinary kind of power in calmness, a power that doesn't shout, doesn't argue, and doesn't chase validation. When you chose not to react, it wasn't passive, it was intentional. Every moment you stayed grounded, you were sending a silent message. I am not defined by your chaos. I will not play your game. Think about what happens when someone is used to triggering reactions. They rely on others to validate their emotions, to feed their drama, to mirror their unrest. But when you didn't react, something remarkable occurred. You removed the fuel from the fire, and fires that are left without fuel, no matter how intense, begin to falter. Your calmness became a force he couldn't understand, a force he couldn't control. Suddenly, the world he thought he had power over started slipping through his fingers. The louder the storm inside him, the stronger your silence became. Every word he expected, every argument he anticipated never came. And in that space, the truth revealed itself. Your strength is not in fighting back. It's in standing still and owning your peace. This is the essence of real power, knowing that your reaction is your choice. And sometimes the most courageous choice is not to react at all. When you didn't react, something extraordinary happened. His own behavior was reflected back to him. Without your words, without your gestures, without the reactions he depended on, he was forced to look at himself. And when someone is used to seeing the world respond to their chaos, that reflection can be terrifying. You became a mirror. Every manipulation, every provocation, every attempt to push your buttons now had nowhere to land. Suddenly, there was no distraction, no scapegoat, no one else to blame. He was left alone with himself, and that was the moment everything started to unravel. Your non-reaction revealed a truth he couldn't escape. The problem was never you. The problem was the way he chose to act, the stories he told himself, the control he assumed he had. And seeing that, without the comforting blur of your engagement, shook the foundation of his world. You don't have to speak to show someone who they really are. Silence can be louder than arguments, and stillness can expose more than confrontation ever could. By simply being, by holding your space, you allowed him to face himself, and that's where real transformation begins. When you didn't react, it wasn't just calmness, it was a boundary. And boundaries are often misunderstood. They are not walls built out of fear or anger. They are declarations of self-respect. They are the unshakable truth that your peace, your dignity, and your energy are yours to protect. By choosing not to engage, you showed him something he had never seen before: strength that doesn't need to prove itself. You demonstrated that your worth isn't tied to his approval, his mood, or his attempts to provoke you. Your silence became a living boundary, quietly saying, I will not bend to your chaos. I will not compromise my integrity to make you comfortable. Boundaries are revolutionary because they force others to confront their own behavior. When someone expects a reaction and doesn't get one, the absence of your compliance feels like a shock. It forces reflection. It disrupts patterns, and it reveals who they are when they can't control the story anymore. Real power doesn't lie in controlling others. It lies in controlling yourself, in holding firm, in honoring your limits without apology. And in that strength, you not only protected your own heart, you reminded him that he can't define you, move you, or dismantle the life you've built. There comes a moment when someone finally sees the truth, and it hits harder than any argument ever could. That moment is when he realizes that he no longer has control because you chose not to react. For someone accustomed to stirring chaos and getting predictable responses, this is terrifying. He begins to feel a shift, subtle at first, like the ground tilting beneath his feet. The world he thought he could manipulate starts to crack. His expectations, his assumptions, his usual strategies, all of them collapse in the quiet of your stillness. And in that silence, he is left face to face with himself. The truth he sees is uncomfortable, it's raw, it's the realization that your life, your emotions, your dignity, and your peace are not his to command. And for the first time, he feels powerless, not because you defeated him, but because you never engaged in the battle he wanted you to fight. That is the moment your strength becomes undeniable. That is the moment he understands sometimes the most profound impact comes not from reaction, not from confrontation, but from unwavering presence. By simply being still, by holding your ground, you shifted the axis of his world. Your emotional independence is a force he couldn't anticipate, and it's one of the most unsettling truths for anyone used to control. It's not arrogance, it's not coldness, it's clarity. It's the understanding that your happiness, your peace, and your sense of self are not negotiable, and they do not require validation from anyone else. When you didn't react, you demonstrated that your emotions are yours to steward. You are not at the mercy of his moods, his words, or his attempts to provoke. You showed that your inner world is sacred, and no one else gets to dictate the weather inside your soul. That kind of strength is magnetic, and it is also disarming. For someone used to relying on others for emotional feedback, your independence is a mirror and a challenge. It forces him to see the difference between being in control and being respected. And that realization is profound. It's uncomfortable because it exposes the gap between manipulation and true connection, between dependence and integrity. Emotional independence doesn't just protect you. It changes the way others see you. It demands respect, even if it initially sparks discomfort or fear. When your peace is untouchable, when your worth is self-determined, you become unstoppable, and he feels the weight of that power whether he wants to or not. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a force. And when you didn't react, your silence became the most powerful teacher he ever encountered. In the absence of your words, your judgments, and your responses, he was left with only himself, his thoughts, his feelings, his choices. And that is where transformation begins. When someone has spent a lifetime relying on others to validate, provoke, or reassure them, silence becomes unsettling. It disrupts the patterns they depend on. It exposes truths they've been avoiding. It forces introspection they cannot escape. And in that quiet, the world he thought he controlled starts to shift without any push, pull, or confrontation from you. Your non-reaction created space for awareness, for accountability, for growth. It allowed him to see who he truly is when he is not performing for someone else. And that realization, though uncomfortable, is the first step toward real change. Transformation is rarely loud, it is rarely immediate, but it is inevitable when you stand firm, honor your boundaries, and refuse to feed someone else's chaos. By simply holding your peace, you became the catalyst for a shift he never saw coming, and that is the kind of strength that can change the course of a life. There is immense power in simply watching, in holding space without judgment or reaction. When you observed without reacting, you were not passive, you were present, fully aware and unshakable. Observation allows you to see the truth without getting tangled in someone else's chaos. He may have expected your reaction to guide his behavior, to validate his emotions, or to fuel his drama, but your quiet observation disrupted his assumptions. He began to notice patterns he had ignored, choices he had justified, and the impact of his actions on others, including you. Observation without reaction is transformative. It communicates that you are awake, that you are conscious, and that you are not easily moved. It gives him no escape from accountability because you are silently witnessing everything without defending, excusing, or participating in his narrative. In that space, the power shifts. The one who tries to provoke loses their advantage. The one who watches calmly gains clarity, strength, and control, not over him, but over yourself and your peace. Your observation is a mirror, a quiet force, and a reminder that true power often speaks in silence. Sometimes the most profound effects of our actions, or in this case, inactions, are invisible at first. When you didn't react, the ripples of your calmness and strength spread quietly, unseen, but undeniable. He might not have admitted it. might not have understood it in the moment, but your presence, your steadfastness was shifting the entire dynamic. Your non-reaction disrupted patterns he had relied on for years. Every attempt to provoke a response, every tactic to gain control was met with a quiet, unwavering boundary. And in that void, he began to feel things he couldn't name: confusion, self-reflection, even fear. He started to realize that his usual ways of navigating the world no longer worked. The unseen impact is the true power of your choices. You didn't need to argue, explain, or convince. Your strength worked silently, creating a space where transformation was inevitable. Sometimes the most powerful change comes not from confrontation, but from constancy, from integrity, from simply holding your ground. And though he may not acknowledge it, though he may resist it, the truth is this: your stillness, your calm, your boundaries, they are forces that leave marks deeper than words ever could. At the heart of everything, the calm, the boundaries, the silence, the observation is one undeniable truth: you are in control of your own power. When you didn't react, you reminded him, and perhaps even yourself, that your strength is yours to claim. It is not granted, negotiated, or borrowed. It is inherent. Owning your power means refusing to shrink for someone else's comfort. It means standing firm even when it feels easier to give in, to react, to argue. It means understanding that your presence, your choices, and your peace are your responsibility, not his. And in that ownership, your life becomes unshakable, your dignity untouchable, and your impact inevitable. He may have tried to destabilize you,